Hello and welcome to Ready Set Demo from Elizabeth's Craft Room. This was a heavily requested video. I heard from a lot of you saying, how do I find new customers? So that's what this is going to be all about. Now, this is a bit chat heavy compared to my usual compared to my usual videos. So grab yourself a cup of coffee, and you might want a pen and paper handy. You might want to listen to this while you're doing some cut or prep for classes or doing another task. But have a pen handy in case there's any little nuggets of information that you want to jot down. If you are already on my customer newsletter list, you will have received a link where you can print off some little kind of helpful hints. So we've got some hints and tips, but we've also got some sort of worksheets that you can use to fill in information, and there's kind of like a step-by-step, do this, then do this, then do this, to try and remind you of the actions that you need to take. Because it's quite easy, you know, sometimes we talk about goals and it seems like you say, oh yes, my goal is to find new customers. But actually, if I sit down in the morning and look at my diary and it says find new customers, that's not taking me anywhere. So I would need to know, what is my first step? What's that very first thing I do? What do I do next? So that's what these printouts are about. Now, I will take you through some of that on this video, but if you haven't already and you've received them, look on the Dropbox link that came in the email, and you'll find that information there. It's just a one file ready for you to download. If you are not already on my email list, why not? Okay, you can sign up for my email. I'm going to leave a link down below in this video. I will try and send out, as I see these come in, when this video first goes live, I will send these out to you, to the new people that sign up. As soon as I see a couple of you on there, I will send them out. If you are watching this, so this is being filmed, oh my goodness, where is this going live? I think March to 2020-ish. If you're watching this in a year or in 2 years, I'm still going to have the files for you, but you might need to drop me an email. Drop me an email to liz.shannon@icloud.com and say, it's that one about the customers, Liz, and I will send it out to you, and I'll pop you on my email list at the same time. Now, before we get into this, here's a little disclaimer. Let me tell you about my business and the way that I run my business. I am face-to-face. Almost entirely face-to-face on my business. I don't have a big online business. Nearly everything is class-based. So with most of my customers, they come to classes, they come once or twice a month. I do regular and special classes. That's where I see them, and that's where they buy. I am currently number 7. Yay! 7. I was always 6 there in sales in the UK. So just because I'm only doing classes doesn't mean I'm not doing sales. So I sell at my classes, and that's how I run my business. Now, if you want to have an online business, I am probably not your best teacher. If you want to have a wholly online business, this is not going to be for you, because that's not my area of expertise. There are people who are much, much better at telling you how to have an online business than me. So this is going to be aimed to you if you want a wholly or partially face-to-face type business. This is going to be finding people in the real world rather than in the digital world, if that makes sense. Doesn't mean we don't sometimes use a little bit of online to find those local people though. So are you watching this because you are your only customer? We all start like that. Are you watching this because you have 1 or 2 customers but you would like to build some up? Are you watching this because you would like to start doing classes and you feel you don't have enough people? Hint, you can start class with 1 person. Or are you watching this because you have classes but you have space in them that you want to fill? Or have you just signed up your best customer? Oh, we need to replace her, don't we? So that could be some of the reasons why you want new customers. But to be honest, we all always want new customers. We want that life and excitement that comes into our business through having new people around. In order to keep our businesses growing and vibrant, as I say, we need new customers. Something also that I have experienced is when somebody brand new comes to class, they are excited. Do you remember the first time you did heat embossing, or the first time you did two-step stamping, or the first time you stamped and found out, hey, I can do this? When people are excited like this, and we know they are, that excitement then rubs off on the other people that are around the table, maybe customers who've been with you for years. And that excitement kind of builds. And do you know what? I don't need to do any selling at that point. I just let the other ladies round the table say, oh, the ink pads are so good compared to anything else you can get. You ought to try, have you tried this Take Your Pick tool? Here you go, have a little go with mine. It is really great to see. So that is another really good reason for getting people who are new into your business. Over the past couple of years, I have been really focused on building my business. I've managed to expand the space that I've got and add to the number of classes that I've got. So I've been really focused on getting new people through the door. And I am delighted to say I've been very successful at that. So I've got a lot of really practical tips to help you achieve that. Now, the very first thing I want you to do is to get a kit together of stuff that you are going to need when you meet somebody new or when you talk about your business. And this would be some hand-stamped cards. Woo! I bet you've got some of those around. Either a business card, you can print your own business cards, you don't need to pay lots of money. If you're in the UK, just use Vistaprint. You only pay for the postage. You'll get about 1 million, so make sure you have your right information on there. But you can also stamp your own business cards, which I used to do. You might want flyers. That's something else that I use. Again, I used to make my own up and have some pictures of projects that I'd done on there and some information about what I do. Now I get them printed. Again, it's very economical to do that through Vistaprint in the UK. Don't know Vistaprint around in other places, but I'm sure you've got printing services that you can use. But again, I used to just print my own, so it's fine to start off with that. If you want to run classes, you need some dates in your diary. So even if you have nobody coming to class at the moment, you have classes available for people to book into. If possible, don't just have one date in the month. Have a couple of different days and times of the day if you can offer that. I started working full-time, so some of my classes were in the evening. Some people do their classes at a weekend. I now do most of my classes during the daytime, but on a weekday. But wherever you've got some space, see if you can offer some alternatives, because there's nothing worse than somebody going, I really want to come, but I can only come evenings, or really want to come, but I can only do Fridays. So try and give yourself a little bit of flexibility with that. So I've split this training into 2 areas. People you already know, people that you don't know. When we don't have to actually go out and find people, when we know them already, it is actually a lot easier. I know what you're saying right now. I don't know anyone who's crafty, or I've already told people, but I'm going to give you a list of different places that you can think about talking to people about what you do. I thought I never shut up about Stampin' Up, but when I started talking to some of my neighbours, and although they knew there were cars coming and parking in the drive, they had no clue what those people were coming for. One of my team teaches adults and children. She's a crazy woman, by the way. I don't teach children. But some, or a lot of people, thought because they knew she did kids classes that she only did kids classes, and that wasn't what she wanted at all. So it's actually communicating what you do. So how do you do that? Well, when you meet somebody, and I'm going to go into some of the places where you might be doing this, the first thing you've got to do is to be able to talk about what you do. Seems very obvious, but I used to burble on. I used to say, oh, I do this, I do that. I've got a team and I do some classes. I do workshops. I used to go in with absolutely all guns blazing. The products are so amazing and I sell those as well. And the trouble was people would get a bit overwhelmed and they went away and they still didn't know what I did. They still didn't. So you need to have at least an opening line of what you do that's simple, that enables people then to ask questions, and then you can get excited and tell them the other things as well, but try not to overwhelm them. So what is it that you do? Think about it now. Do you know what you say? You might have your salutation if you like, you might have your explanation, just like that. Yay for you if you have. But if you haven't, I'm going to get you to practice it. I'm going to get you to think about it and practice it. And it's one of the first things you're doing on this sheet is writing your own, because you might have a very different business to me. So when I'm asked what I do, or I volunteer what I do, I say, I teach adults papercraft classes. We make cards and boxes. And I also sell the goodies that we use in those classes so people can carry on and make projects at home. And that's it. I keep it short. Now, if people then say, where do you teach? I can say, oh, I'm in a studio in Rownhams. If people say, how many classes do you do? I'll say, oh, I do 10 classes a month. You know, whatever it is, you can then add some extra information in. But have that first salutation. What is it that you do? So work that out. Very important to know. Right, so let's get on to people you already know. Now, as I've said, we all say, oh no, done that, already done that, especially if you've been a demonstrator for a long time. If you're a new demo, you might go, yeah, go out and talk to them. But I bet you think you've talked to them. Go and talk to them again. Think about approaching people and telling them what it is that you do. You can bring it into a conversation. It doesn't need to be pushy or selly. You can just bring it into a conversation, ask what they do, and then you've also got, well, what I do is, you know, it'll bring you in. So here's some of the people. I have a list. It is also, this hints and tips one is on the printable, but I've got a couple of extra little notes here. So neighbours. If you haven't chatted to them for a while, tell them what you do. If you're holding events in your home, oh my goodness, the people who live right around you have got a really easy way to go and have a night out or an afternoon out or a morning out. They just walk over the road. So definitely talk to your neighbours about what you're doing. Friends. Now, I know what you're going to say, my friends aren't crafty. Let me tell you, my sister isn't crafty. She loves what I make. She admires it in other people. She has no clue why we want to do this. But what she does is she recommends me. So ask people who don't like craft to say, oh, my friend, my sister, she does these amazing classes. Get them to recommend what you do. Give them a few flyers if you've got flyers, or give them a couple of cards and your contact information. Tell them when your class dates are and get them to advertise you, because they're your friends and your family. They want to do that. Extended family. Now, sometimes when we think about our family, we just think, you know, I think about my sister and my mum and dad. But sometimes what you want to do is also think about your extended family, your cousins, your aunts and uncles, your second cousins, people you haven't seen for a while. You know, do you have in your family a kind of a round letter that goes around? Do you have a Facebook group? If you have, share that information, share what it is you're doing. If it's your new business, great opportunity to say, yeah, I'm so excited. But even if you've been doing this for years, you can go on and say, oh, I'm excited because I've got a new class date. Do you know anyone who would like to do this? It's just once a month. It costs $15, whatever it is. And actually just share that. Also, while we're talking about sharing online, you know, local area groups. I've got a couple that are very close to where I live. They're community groups. Check what their rules are, because some don't allow advertising. On the ones that I'm on, I found that you certainly wouldn't want to put something on every week, but if you put something on once a month, they're quite happy for you to share as a local business. And it's a really good way, and it's certainly a way that I have met some of my customers. Hairdressers or nail technicians, take your catalogue and sit there and look at it. A bit more tricky when you're having your nails done, maybe your toenails, but take a catalogue with you. If your hairdresser or other people there showing interest, ask if you can leave your catalogue there. Make sure you've got lots of tear-offs on the inside with flyers or your contact details, telling people you do classes and getting them to get in contact with you. I'll just say, and I perhaps should have said this a little bit earlier, one thing I never have on any of these pieces of information is my address, because I teach from home and I don't want people just turning up, and I need to know their booking. I need to have a rough idea who they are. So I don't give out my actual address until the point at which somebody is actually booking a class. So that's just a little kind of, safety thing. But obviously I have an email and I have a mobile number on there so people can reach me. What about waiting staff in your favourite restaurant, or even while you're doing your shopping? Have you got glittery hands? My upline used to leave glitter on her hands purposely, Amanda, if you're watching this, so that people asked. It's actually a really good opener to talk to anyone that you meet like that. People you see regularly at church, for example, or on the bus or on the train on your way to work. Someone who's an acquaintance maybe rather than a friend. And talk to them, ask them, what is it you do? I see you every day. What do you do? And talk to them about what you do too. Spouses or partners of spouses. Again, a flyer or a card is your friend here if it's a partner. Did I say partners of spouses? I mean co-workers or spouses or partners of co-workers. Did I say that right? You can laugh at me. Yeah, so saying, your other half, does she do anything creative? Oh, let me give you these for her. See if she'd like to have a look at this, see if it's something she'd be interested in. I say she because we know it's mostly she, but not always, of course. Previous customers. Now, this is one, again, I think, oh no, I haven't got previous customers. My customers are all still with me. But actually, no, when you go through your list, if you've been doing this for a while, you will have people who you met at a workshop. Do you remember the days we used to have lots of workshops? I've got a whole nother video on how we get around that. And that will be coming at some point. But, people that you saw once or twice a couple of years ago, get a newsletter out to them, reach out to them. If you added them to your business manager, which is on the Stampin' Up website, if they bought from you once, you will have their details there. So reach out to them. Send them a card if you can. If you have the time and the money to do that, because I know postage costs, but if you have the time and money to send people a card, that is just the best way to make the initial contact. And then never forget about all the people that you just meet in passing. People you chat to at the school gate, at the bank, at the post office, I said the supermarket, at the doctor's surgery when you're waiting, at choir, at the gym, wherever you are, be prepared to talk to someone and always have something in your bag that you can give them so that they can reach out to you if they are interested. Now, did you write any names down while I was talking about those areas? If you didn't, get hold of the printables and sit down for a moment, think of those names and decide about approaching those people. Hopefully now you've got a list. It may be a short list, it may be a long list, but hopefully now you have got some names to reach out to. Now you need to decide how you're going to do that. Now, as I said, an initial contact can be a card is the best, or an email, but talking to somebody in person or on the phone if you can't see them in person is the absolute top way. You can gauge their interest a lot easier. You can see if they're just blanking and this isn't me. You can see that. We're not trying to make people who don't want to do this do it. You can also see people that go, oh yeah, that's that's interesting. Or say, oh, I do lace making, or I do sewing. And my answer to that is always, oh, some of the ladies who come to my class do that as well. And then they think, oh yeah, I'd be amongst friends, I'd be amongst creative people. You can also reassure them if they say, oh, I've never done anything like that, I don't think I'd be good at it. Come and have a try, come and see. It's much easier to have that kind of interaction, preferably face-to-face or on the phone, than to have that, try and have that interaction via an email or a text. So once you have contacted them, don't leave it at that. Follow up again. So make a note in your diary of from when you spoke to somebody, to leave it a week or 10 days and get in contact again. Unless they are going, yes, I want to know all about this, in which case you get straight back to them with a date to get them booked into a class. If they're kind of, yeah, I'll think about it, do go back to them. Here's a little stat. I'm not much of a numbers girl, but this is a stat that made me sit up and take notice. Only 2% of people will make a purchase on their or book a class on their very first time of meeting you or seeing an ad or a flyer. Only 2%. 80% of people will actually make a commitment after 5 interactions with you. Oh my goodness, that is a lot. That seems to me, oh my God, that's a lot of times to go back to somebody. Now, I would say my experience of crafting is that my numbers are a lot higher than that. When we're doing shows, which I'll come on to, we have a lot higher than a 2%, I believe me. But certainly with something like flyers, that initial thing, yeah, it's going to be low. So you're going to need to reach out to them again. And Stampin' Up! Give us a lot of opportunities to reach out. We have offers, so if you're talking to somebody about purchasing and they're saying, oh yeah, I might want to, ring them up with this month's offer. We've got some really cute new cardstock. We've got this that goes with this punch. Or ring them up about a class. I've got a great class coming up. I think you would really like it. Would you like to come and bring a friend? I offer for somebody who's coming for the first time, for a regular class, so not a with product, but for a regular, what at the moment for me is a £10 class, I offer for £5. So come for the first time for £5. Even bring a friend and you can both come for £5. Once I've got them through the door, I don't let them go. Mostly they laugh, they have a great time and they book to come again. But getting them in that first time, it's sometimes worth doing that. I will finish by saying this on the people that you already know. Just because somebody doesn't want to come to class right now doesn't mean they're never going to want to. So even if they say, no, really, I'm way too busy, again, I always say, oh, you deserve an hour's me time a month, don't you? But if they really are, they've got way too much going on, it doesn't mean that you can't talk to them in 6 months' time or in a year and ask them if they are now a little bit calmer and would they like to have that couple of hours me time a month. And so don't ever write anybody off completely. Okay, so now we have talked about people you already know. And as I say, you already know them. It's a little bit easier. So what about people we don't know? How on earth are we going to find them? They are out there. They are shopping. If you're in the US, they're shopping in Michael's. And in the UK, they're shopping in Hobbycraft. Stop them doing that. You want them to be shopping with us. You want them to be coming to our classes. So how do you find them? And stalking people in Michael's is not always the way. So how do we actually do this? Here's the first one, and oh my goodness, this is easy and it is actually really effective. When I look back at my stats, over a third of people who come to my classes now were recommended by somebody who already comes to classes. I've also got team members who were recommended by people who already came to classes. In fact, from one lady, I can spot 27 people in my team and at my classes now who all were directly or indirectly recommended, having met that lady right at the beginning. So one person can make a huge difference to your business. One person who's loving your classes is your best ambassador to go out there and say, I had the best morning at Liz's class, can't wait to go back next month. Hey, do you know that she lets you go for half price the first time? Why don't you come along with me? That is, you can't pay for that advertising. However, if you want to pay for that advertising, tell your customer that if she brings her friend, then she can have some bling for free or something else, or some ribbon, or give her a little incentive to bring somebody along. I've done that in the past when I've needed to build my class numbers up, when I've put a new class on that I needed to get some people into. That is one really good way of doing it. But remember to ask. People will love your classes, but not necessarily think to recommend you to their friends. So be out there at the class, say, have you had fun today? I'm going to ask you a favour. Can you do this for me? I've got some spaces that I'd love to fill. Will you think about who you know who might want to come with you, who might want to come on a different day? You know, ask them to help you, because most people who are enjoying your classes already will want to do that. So how else do we meet new people? Well, the traditional way of doing that is through a hostess. So you get one of your friends to host a party. They don't even need to be creative. They can just invite some people along, and you can do a traditional workshop or party where you do some demonstrations, you talk about some goodies in the catalogue, you do a make and take, and you invite them to order at the end of that time. In days when I used to do quite a lot of workshops, and they are not now, as I mentioned, but when I used to do quite a lot of those, that was a really good way of meeting new people, because the hostess would invite lots of people I've not met before. Now, not all of them turned out to be crafters, but whenever I met one that was, they were then really interested and continued to be a customer for me. At the workshop, I would also always mention that I also run a monthly class, and that was another way that I built up customers who were coming to see me every month at class, which is the way, you know, I tend to run my business. So like me, you may find you struggle to get traditional workshops and parties. So I am going to share the best way that I have found customers over the past few years. And that is vendor fairs, country fairs, farmers markets and local events. Now, I have a whole video on how to actually be successful in those events, because just getting a stall and going and standing there is not going to do it. You need to be really active in how you get people through the door, how you get people interested in what you're doing. So I have got a whole other video on that, and I will link that below on the Ready Set Demo blog so you can find it. So I would definitely encourage you, if you are starting out looking for people you don't know, go and watch that video first, because there's a lot of information in there. Over the last 3 years, 75% of my new customers, 75% have come through fairs. So even though I'm still getting recommends, those fairs have been fantastic for me. If possible, I would suggest you do the fairs with a friend. Now, the person I do these with mostly is one of my team. If you're working with a team member, I would suggest somebody who is working and wanting to achieve similar things to you. So we are both full-time stampers, we both have multiple class options. I do mostly daytimes, she does mostly evenings, which does really work when we are getting people to come along to events. We both put in the same amount of work and effort. but also we can nip to the toilet, we can nip to the bathroom if we need to during the day. There's always somebody on the stall. We have a really good laugh, we have a lot of banter between us, and then people are also interested to come over and see what are those people laughing about, and so it's a lot easier to do this with another person. Now if you don't have a team member or another demonstrator that you can work with, ask a friend, ask a family member. I have done these with my husband before. You know, it means that you're not stood there alone, and it's a really good, it makes it a much more fun event to go and do. So that's something that I would highly recommend. Before you book an event, and you know, finding events online, ask locally, you might already know about local events that are going on. Try and find out who will be attending them. Are these the sort of people that would be a good fit for your classes? If they're not, then I do daytime classes, so I wouldn't want to go to somewhere where everybody attending was going to be working 9 to 5. That would be useless for me. So try and see the sort of people, ask what the footfall is. If this is a local, church event or a little sort of town hall event, they might not know that. But this is a big fair, and the bigger they are, the more you're paying for your stand. They will have information about footfall and the sort of people that would be going along. If possible, try and attend one of those events to see what they're like, and see what the clientele is like before you commit. But sometimes you just have to go for it and see. Have a bright and pretty display. So obviously you want some cards, you want some colour, you want some something that you can point to and say, this is the sort of thing we do in class. One thing is important though, is stick to a single message. I mentioned this earlier when I was talking about introducing yourself and saying what you do. I used to do shows where I did exactly that. I had a sign saying join my team, and I had a sign saying buy product, and I had a sign saying book a workshop, and I had a sign saying come to a class, and they were like, what, that's too much. So now when I do this with my colleagues, Tracy is her name, we have one thing in mind, and that is to get people booked into classes. Once they're in a class, we can talk to them about, would you like to buy the product, and would you like to join my team, and would you like to host a party? We can talk to them about all of those things, but let's get them through the door first, and getting them through the door, we offer them a half-price class if they book today. So that would be the way that we work, and that's what we aim for. So pretty stand, stick to one clear message. Be smiling and interactive through the show. Now, go into some of this in more detail on the other video, but as I said, you can't be passive, you need to be active. You need to be talking to people, you need to be asking them what they do that is creative, you need to be listening to what they say and respond to what they say. And you need to be smiling all day. Even when somebody walks past the stand and goes, you still need to smile, and actually that is when it really pays off, because you can also have a little giggle. Because not everybody is going to love you. It's sad, it's wrong, because I love you, but there are going to be people who are not going to get what you're doing. But you keep on smiling all day, you keep on looking like you're somebody that someone wants to come and hang out with and spend time with. So that is a way that we have found dozens of new customers, but there are some others. So I'm going to finish off with some other ways that you can reach out to people. I have people occasionally find me on my blog and have found me on DBWS. So make sure if you've got DBWS or if you've got a blog that it's up to date with at least a recent up-to-date project on there, but also you've got a class list on there. Just once a month, put it in your diary, put the next month's or the next couple of months' classes on there to show people that you have got an itinerary of classes. Fake it till you make it. So if you have a class on your schedule and you don't actually have anybody attend, there's nothing wrong in showing some photos of what they would have made and saying, these are the cute things we made at class this month. Would you like to come to next month's class? That's okay, that is okay. Faking it is good. If you're on Facebook or other social media, again, I'm not an expert in this field, as I said at the beginning, but obviously that is a great place to share. Again, if you on Facebook, you can put events on there. So even though that is not my main way of finding people, all of my events are on there. So if somebody goes and looks at my blog or looks at my Facebook page, they will see it populated with some classes that are coming up that they can attend. Consider local advertising. Now, this is something I do in a local church magazine for me. Sometimes there are community magazines and other ways of locally advertising. They can be lower cost than taking out an ad in a bigger newspaper. So have a little look, see whether that works for you. And flyers, I have literally gone round and put flyers through people's in people's letterboxes. If you're in the UK or somewhere where traditionally letterboxes are quite stiff when you put them through, my tip, make sure you've got some padding on the back of your hand. I was so bruised after I did the first 100, you would not believe. So just do that. But the take up for unsolicited advertising like that is only about 1%. So remember what I said about seeing you multiple times. If you are going out and spending some time and, you know, getting your steps in, delivering some flyers, make sure also at the same time you put notices in local shops if they will let you. Do ask. If you're doing local advertising, it's a great time to do advertising and flyers at the same time. Anywhere locally where you can, my church lets me put some in the foyer of the church there. So anywhere locally that you can put it, so they can go, oh yes, that's Elizabeth's Craft Room. I've seen that somewhere before. And even at shows, we've had people come up and say, oh yes, you were in the Village News, weren't you? Yeah, I see you in Village News advertising. So it does help to have that multiple advertising thing. So, if you haven't already, download this or get in touch with me to get it at liz.shannon@icloud.com or sign up for my newsletter list and I will pop that out to you. It is not an easy thing to find new customers. There is nothing magic about doing it. You do have to get out there and actually do it. However, there is nothing more satisfying than having new people at class, seeing how they are enjoying themselves, seeing how much they love the products, and you get to have a bigger and bigger stamping family. So it is well worth the effort that you need to put in to find new customers. If you've got any questions and comments, do leave them. You can leave them below on YouTube or below on my Ready Set Demo blog. I can't give individual coaching. I'm sure you can understand why. But if there are questions coming up that, you know, I can see that other people are also interested, or you come up with something I haven't thought of, I will try and share that in a newsletter or somewhere on the blog, or add it on to the blog post for this one, so we can sort of hopefully answer questions for lots of people at once. So good luck with finding your new customers. Thank you for visiting Ready Set Demo from Elizabeth's Craft Room today. I've got my fingers crossed for you. Let me know how it goes.